thank you for joining me today. We're going to explore Section 2, Setting the Mission, over the course of the next few minutes. If you remember back to the beginning of this session, I stated there were 3 sections. Section 1 was about foundational beliefs and a summary of the process. Section 2 included setting the mission, and Section 3 included setting vision. This video has the facilitator slide deck embedded into it. With the facilitator slide deck and toolkit both open alongside this video, you'll be able to follow along as I walk you through the process. You may want to consider adding your school logo and facilitator information to that page. Your second slide is the agenda slide. It contains the welcome and introduction section. You'll be identifying the foundational beliefs, sharing that you're going to be having a 5-step process to create mission and vision, and also a reflection. I would suggest spending 2 to 3 minutes on this slide. If you go to your second slide in the facilitator slide deck, this is what you will see. This is a sample agenda for your first session. The session is approximately 2 to 3 hours in length. Please feel free to jot notes in your facilitator slide deck as you see fit. As you move to the third slide, please note that I have indicated in the notes section a 5 to 10 minute time for this particular slide. This welcome and introduction slide should be used to establish an appropriate welcome message and introduction protocol. If you don't have a particular protocol to use, feel free to use the same protocol that we used when I conducted introductions earlier within the session. That being, have the participants identify themselves and their connection to the school, district, or organization. You will use this slide to provide an opportunity to identify your leadership team's definition of shared leadership, personalized learning, and the community beliefs and needs as a starting point for deepening your innovative charter school's mission and vision. The definitions found at the beginning of this presentation have been included in the facilitator slide deck for a starting point. Your leadership should also identify community beliefs and needs prior to the mission and vision creation. Notice in the notes section of the facilitator's planning guide that there are tasks that are to be completed before the actual mission and vision planning sessions. For this slide, you're going to allow approximately 1 minute. All you're going to do is communicate to the stakeholders that the planning team is going to be collecting their perspectives and facilitating activities to group together buckets of common ideas. Next, stakeholders will be invited to draft and share their initial mission statements. Finally, the planning team will facilitate an activity to support a first revision of the mission statements created. Please allow 10 minutes for this slide. You are going to be instructing your participants to get into groups of 3 to 5 people. You should have a diverse set of stakeholders within those groups, including governance, leadership, teachers, students, community, alumni, nonprofit, and whomever else you plan to have join you. The group should identify one person to record important elements of the stories on the storytelling tool. The important elements are A, our cause, our who, what, and where. B, our actions, and C, our changes for the better. Next, you'll conduct a storytelling exercise within the small group. Eventually, you're going to return to the whole group, and the spokesperson is going to use the storytelling tool to summarize the stories. As they're summarizing, you're going to actually ask the entire group to think about common areas or ideas that have emerged from the storytelling activity. Please allow about 50 minutes for this slide. As the facilitators, you're going to ask the individuals to return to their small groups of 3 to 5 people. You're going to label those groups A, B, C, D, and E. Identify where the groups should begin. So for example, Group A starts with Station 1, Group B starts with Station 2, etc., etc. Instruct the groups to select a new reporter and a new spokesperson. Engage in a station rotation activity using either the digital perspectives template or chart paper. Instruct participants to think about the story they shared or the story shared by others when answering the template questions. Keep the common ideas from the storytelling activity in mind. Using a timer, you'll signal the groups when they should rotate to the next question. It would be about 10 minutes per question. Please allow approximately 20 minutes for this particular slide, and it's going to include a break and a whole group review. I want to point out that I have identified in blue some planning team notes that needs to be done prior to the session. You're going to begin by asking the group to review each other's work recorded on the Collective Perspectives document, and you're going to look for common ideas and thoughts. The facilitator then asks the groups to record common ideas and themes on sticky notes and place them on one of the three categories: our cause, our actions, our changes for the better. The facilitator instructs participants to take a break, but also provides a time for returning as a whole group. The facilitator and other volunteers, if available, should group those sticky notes during that break time into those three categories. The facilitator and other volunteers also provide headings for each of the common themes and ideas within each of these categories. Step 3 is drafting the mission statement. Please note that there is some pre-work that does need to be completed prior to the actual session. So the facilitator begins by illustrating how to use the protocol on the template and the most recent charts created, our cause, our actions, our changes for the better, to develop the group's mission statement. The facilitator asks groups to select a new person to be the recorder and another person to be the spokesperson. With step 4, you're going to have your participants share their initial statements for the mission. You're going to ask them to listen for the length, the simplicity, and if you disagree, the statement may be too generic or a cliche. Finally, listening for voice. Is it memorable and is it catchy? The facilitator needs to communicate the importance of reading the mission statements out loud so that you can listen for the voice of the statement. Each mission statement is projected one at a time and read out loud. The spokesperson is the individual who reads each of those mission statements out loud. Other participants then provide feedback around length, simplicity, disagreement, and voice. The facilitator is going to pose this essential question and request feedback from the participants. The group collectively reduces 5 initial mission statements to 1 statement for the whole group. That statement should be posted. Next time the stakeholders come together, you will review and revise the mission statement and work on the vision statement. You're going to allow about 5 to 10 minutes for this next slide. Pose these 3 questions for reflection. You're collecting these responses to use and adjust the next section as needed. Also use this as a segue into the last slide for this session. We're going to pause here for a moment so you, as the planning team, can engage in a conversation with your planning team around these 2 questions. Consider how your responses might impact the creation of the mission and vision work for your school, organization, or district. The purpose of these questions is to support your pre-planning work.